What if I told you there's a country with secrets that aren't fully shown on any map in the world? What if I told you that in this country people still live like they did 1,000 years ago, even in the 21st century? There are places that can't even be seen properly on Google Earth. Regions censored even in satellite images. And in these regions, people live completely cut off from the outside world, following their own rules. In this country, marriage permission must be obtained from the state. Beard length is controlled by police. And most shocking of all, traditional bride kidnapping rituals are still practiced in some regions. Hidden among mountains reaching 7,000 meters high, this country is a place the modern world has never reached. Here, time works differently. Rules are different. Life is different. This is Tajikistan, one of the world's most mysterious, least known countries. Today, I'll tell you the deepest secrets of this country, its most astonishing traditions and lifestyles completely disconnected from the modern world. But be prepared, because these stories will make you question what you know about the world. Because once you learn what's hidden in the heart of Central Asia, you'll never look at human civilization the same way again. Where is Tajikistan? Most people can't answer this question. This isn't coincidence. Tajikistan is a country that has been systematically erased from world maps. 143,000 square kilometers, a country larger than Greece. But it never appears in world media. It never comes up in international news, as if it's a place that doesn't exist. Why? The answer lies hidden in the country's strategic location. Tajikistan is squeezed between China, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan. This position makes it geopolitically very sensitive. But the real secret lies in the fact that 93% of the country is mountainous. These mountains aren't just geographical barriers. They're walls of social and cultural isolation. The PAMIR Mountains surround the country, completely separating it from the world. Some peaks rise above 7,000 meters. At this altitude, oxygen levels are half of normal. Human life is nearly impossible. But what's surprising is 9 million people live in these impossible conditions. How is this possible? The Tajik people have adapted to this harsh geography for thousands of years. They have genetic adaptations. Their lung capacity is 40% greater than normal people. Their blood cell counts are twice as high. This isn't just physical adaptation, it's cultural adaptation too. Tajik society has developed a completely self-sufficient system. They can live without needing the outside world. They produce their own food, weave their own fabrics, practice their own healing methods. Most impressive aspect, this system hasn't changed for 1,000 years. Even the Soviet Union couldn't completely change this system. Even under 70 years of Soviet rule, Tajik traditions were preserved. Because these traditions aren't just culture, they're survival strategy. Tajikistan's greatest secret, resistance to modernization. The country deliberately rejects modernization. Highways aren't built. Large airports aren't constructed. International investment isn't accepted. Why? Because modernization threatens traditional lifestyle. This isn't just a political decision, it's a social choice. The Tajik people fear the changes that the modern world would bring. But this isolation has created something extraordinary, a living museum of human civilization. In Tajikistan, you can see how people lived centuries ago, how they solved problems, how they organized society. This isn't just historical curiosity, it's crucial knowledge for humanity's future. Because Tajikistan proves that alternative ways of living are possible. The ROGUN Corridor, one of the world's highest habitable places. At 4,000 meters altitude with half the oxygen level, 50 villages exist. The residents of these villages are completely cut off from the world. The nearest city is 300 kilometers away. Getting there takes 3 days, but it's only possible in summer months. In winter, they're completely isolated. What kind of life does this isolation create? The ROGUN people use their own monetary system. Tajikistan's official currency doesn't work here. They live with a barter system. Yak milk for wheat, fabric for tea. They have their own justice system. They judge criminals themselves, punish them themselves. They're unaware of the state's existence. Most surprising aspect, they have their own calendar system. The ROGUN people created their own calendar by following the movements of the sun and moon. This calendar differs from the Gregorian calendar by 15 days. For them, the new year begins at a different time. Why did they develop such a system? Because at this altitude, seasons work completely differently. The normal calendar doesn't match the climate cycles here. They organize their own calendar according to agriculture, animal husbandry, and daily life. ROGUN's greatest secret, Marco Polo sheep. These legendary animals live only in this region. Their horns can grow up to 2 meters long. They got this name because Marco Polo wrote about these sheep. These sheep are sacred to the ROGUN people. Harming them is forbidden. Even hunting them is forbidden. This prohibition doesn't come from the state, it comes from tradition. Because according to local beliefs, Marco Polo sheep are messengers of mountain spirits. If they're harmed, mountain spirits get angry and bring disaster to villages. This belief has been preserved for 1,000 years, and the result? Marco Polo sheep continue to live only here. What makes the ROGUN survival system truly remarkable is its complete sustainability. Every resource is used in cycles. Yak dung fertilizes fields, crops feed people and animals. Animal products provide clothing and shelter materials. The social organization is equally sophisticated. The community operates on consensus decision-making that takes into account the needs of every family. Leadership rotates seasonally based on expertise. Shepherds lead during grazing season, farmers during planting season. Most intriguingly, the ROGUN people have developed their own system of weather prediction that surpasses modern meteorology in accuracy. They read cloud formations, animal behavior, and plant responses to predict weather weeks in advance. This knowledge has been refined over centuries of survival in one of Earth's most challenging environments. Tajikistan's most controversial tradition, bride kidnapping. This tradition hasn't just remained in history, it's still practiced in some regions today. But there's a big difference between what's portrayed in media and reality. Bride kidnapping in Tajikistan isn't forced marriage. It's a complex social ritual. This ritual has layers. First layer, economic agreement. An agreement is made between two families beforehand. Bride price, dowry, wedding expenses are predetermined. Second layer, Social approval. Village elders and Aksakals approve this marriage. Nothing is done without approval. Why such a complex system? Because this system is a way to preserve family structure in harsh living conditions. Every marriage is the union of two families. This union isn't just emotional, it's survival strategy. In mountainous regions, resources are scarce. Water sources, agricultural land, animal herds are limited. Marriage ensures fair sharing of these resources. But how does the system work? Tajik society has the Mahalla system. This is traditional governance managed by neighborhood elders. Mahalla also regulates marriages. Mahalla's decision is stronger than law. State rules apply in cities, Mahalla rules apply in villages. Doesn't this system create conflict? There were periods when it did. Especially during the Soviet period, major conflicts occurred, but the system survived. Because this isn't just tradition, it's practical solution. The state can't offer alternative lifestyle models to people living in harsh geography. That's why the traditional system continues. What do modern Tajik women do in this situation? They live dual lives. Modern life in the city, traditional life in the village. This dual identity is very common. Urban Tajik women attend university, work, live modern lives. But when they visit their families in villages, they take on traditional roles. Although this seems contradictory, it's actually a very practical solution. Every environment has its own rules. The bride kidnapping tradition also serves important social functions beyond marriage arrangement. It's a way of testing family alliances, demonstrating community support, and ensuring that marriages have broad social backing rather than just parental approval. Modern variations of the tradition have evolved too. In urban areas, symbolic kidnapping might involve a brief ceremonial event rather than actual abduction. The girl's consent is often secured beforehand, and the ritual becomes more about honoring tradition than actual coercion. But the tradition faces increasing pressure from women's rights advocates and younger generations who want more individual choice in marriage partners. This creates tension between preserving cultural identity and adapting to changing social values. ROGUN Dam, the project to become the world's tallest dam. 335 meters high, only 50 meters shorter than the Eiffel Tower. But this isn't just numbers, it's geopolitical power demonstration. Why is ROGUN Dam so important? Because this dam will make Tajikistan an energy superpower. With the power of the Vaksh River, it will generate 17 billion kilowatts of electricity annually. This can meet the electricity needs of all Central Asia. But there's a hidden story behind the project. ROGUN Dam is actually a Soviet project. It was started in 1970. But when the Soviets collapsed in 1991, the project was left half-finished. For 30 years, the half-finished dam was Tajikistan's greatest shame, because the country was dependent on neighbors for electricity. In the 2000s, the project was restarted, but this time with a different purpose. ROGUN is no longer just an energy project, it's a national pride project, symbol of Tajikistan's independence. How is the dam being financed? This is the biggest mystery. Tajikistan's economy isn't in a position to finance such a large project, but the dam is being built. Where is the funding coming from? According to the first theory, Chinese financing. China is financing the dam in exchange for access to mineral resources in Tajikistan. According to the second theory, secret Russian investment. Russia is secretly channeling money into the project to maintain its influence in Central Asia. According to the third theory, Iranian connection. Iran shows special interest because Tajik people speak Persian. Which is true? Nobody knows. But ROGUN's effects are already visible. Thousands of villagers were displaced for dam construction. Where did these villagers go? It's not in the records. Archaeological remains were found in the dam area. 2,000-year-old Buddhist temples will be submerged. World heritage will be lost. Biggest risk: earthquake. Tajikistan is in an active earthquake zone. If the dam collapses in a major earthquake, millions of people downstream are in danger. But the dam is still being built, because for Tajikistan this is vital. The ROGUN project represents more than infrastructure development. It's Tajikistan's bid for regional independence. For decades, the country has been dependent on Uzbekistan for electricity during winter months, creating political leverage that Uzbek leadership has used to influence Tajik policy. The dam's construction has revealed fascinating engineering challenges. The site sits on complex geological formations that required innovative foundation techniques. Engineers had to develop new methods for working at extreme altitudes where weather conditions limit construction to just a few months per year. Perhaps most intriguingly, the dam has uncovered evidence of ancient civilizations. Archaeological teams have raced against rising water levels to document Buddhist monasteries, Zoroastrian fire temples, and trading posts from the Silk Road era. These discoveries suggest the Vaksh Valley was far more significant in ancient times than previously understood. Panjikent, the city that suddenly disappeared 1,500 years ago. This ancient city is the Pompeii of Central Asia, because the city was abandoned suddenly, as if people vanished overnight. What makes Panjikent special? This city is the best preserved example of pre-Islamic Central Asian civilization. Its walls have frescoes of daily life. These frescoes are like Instagram from 1,500 years ago. What do the frescoes show? Daily life scenes. People eating, dancing, shopping. But the most interesting detail, these people don't look anything like today's Tajik people. Panjikent people's facial features are completely different. Hair colors, eye colors, body structures don't resemble today's people. What does this mean? Panjikent was a city of a different ethnic group. This group suddenly disappeared. Another people came in their place, but why did they disappear? There are three theories. First theory, Islamic conquest. Arab armies captured the city and massacred or exiled all the people. Second theory, natural disaster. A major earthquake or flood disaster suddenly destroyed the city. Third theory, disease epidemic. Plague or other infectious disease wiped out the entire population. Which theory is correct? Archaeological evidence is contradictory. There are no signs of war in the city, but there are signs of sudden abandonment. People left their belongings in houses and fled, as if they were in a hurry. Panjikent's greatest mystery: inscriptions. Inscriptions found in the city aren't written in any known language. An undeciphered alphabet was used. This alphabet resembles Sogdian alphabet but is different, as if it's an evolved form of Sogdian alphabet. If these inscriptions can be deciphered, Panjikent's secret will be revealed. Recent discoveries have been made in Panjikent in recent years. In 2019, a tunnel system was found under the city. These tunnels connect the city to the outside world, like secret escape routes. In 2021, a large palace complex was discovered. This palace is the most advanced architecture of that period. In 2023, the most surprising discovery: observatory. Panjikent people were engaged in astronomy. They were observing stars, calculating calendars. This level of knowledge is very advanced for that period. Panjikent isn't just a lost city, it's a lost civilization. The artistic sophistication revealed in Panjikent challenges assumptions about Central Asian cultural development. The frescoes show influences from Byzantium, India, China, and Persia, suggesting this was a cosmopolitan center where ideas and goods from across the known world converged. Recent chemical analysis of the pigments used in the frescoes has revealed trade connections extending much further than previously imagined. Lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, cinnabar from Spain, and organic dyes from Southeast Asia all appear in the artwork, indicating trade networks of remarkable scope and sophistication. The undeciphered script remains one of archaeology's most tantalizing puzzles. Computer analysis has identified grammatical patterns suggesting it's related to ancient Persian languages, but with unique innovations that might represent a previously unknown branch of Indo-European languages. Most mysteriously, the layout of Panjikent follows astronomical alignments that correlate with star positions from exactly 1,500 years ago. This suggests the city wasn't just built for practical purposes, but was designed as a kind of cosmic calendar or observatory city. This language is officially considered a dialect of Persian. But the reality is very different. Tajik language has diverged so much from Persian that Iranians can't understand Tajik. Why did this happen? Tajik language developed in geographical isolation for thousands of years. It was protected from external influences. As a result, very archaic features were preserved. Words from 1,000 years ago are still used in Tajik language today. These words have disappeared in modern Persian. Most interesting feature: the concept of time is different in Tajik language. Tajik has 3 different past tenses: recent past, yesterday, last week; middle past, last year, a few years ago; distant past, long ago, legendary time. Why does this system exist? Because the past is very important in Tajik culture. There's ancestor cult. Everything has historical reference. Another feature of Tajik language: ritual language. Tajik used in daily conversation is different from ritual Tajik. Ritual language is much more archaic. Only bards know this ritual language. Bards are poets who preserve oral tradition. How does the bard tradition work? Bards keep thousands of poems in their memory. These poems aren't written. They're only transmitted from memory. Each bard knows at least 50 hours of poetry. These poems contain Tajik history, mythology, and wisdom. Bards pass their knowledge to chosen students on their deathbeds. This system has worked this way for 1,000 years. The greatest treasure of Tajik bards, secret poems. These poems aren't recited in front of people. They're only told at special moments, to special people. What do secret poems contain? Traces of old religions, Zoroastrianism, Buddhism, lost historical events, magic formulas, healing prayers. This knowledge doesn't exist in written sources, it only lives in bards' memories. The modern world threatens this tradition. Young generation no longer wants to become bards. Television and internet are more attractive. In the last 50 years, the number of bards has decreased by 80%. At this rate, in 20 years, the bard tradition will completely disappear. And with it, the deepest layers of Tajik culture will be lost. The linguistic complexity of Tajik extends beyond just vocabulary preservation. The language maintains grammatical structures that disappeared from Persian over 500 years ago. For linguists, Tajik serves as a window into how Persian would have sounded and functioned in medieval times. Most remarkably, Tajik preserves a sophisticated system of honorifics and social markers that reflect the complex hierarchical society of traditional Central Asia. The way you address someone in Tajik indicates not just their social status, but their family lineage, regional origin, and even their spiritual authority. The oral tradition maintained by bards includes mathematical and astronomical knowledge encoded in poetic form. Epic poems contain precise calculations for agricultural timing, weather prediction, and even architectural proportions. This suggests that bards weren't just entertainers but repositories of scientific knowledge. Recent linguistic research has identified over 3,000 words in Tajik that exist nowhere else in the Indo-European language family. These appear to be remnants of pre-Persian languages spoken in Central Asia, preserved in isolation for over a millennium. Tajikistan is officially a Muslim country, but reality is much more complex. Religious beliefs of Tajik people exist in layers. Islam is on top, but very ancient beliefs live underneath. What are these ancient beliefs? Zoroastrian remnants. Fire cult. Fire is still considered sacred. Light-darkness duality. Purification rituals. Buddhist traces, meditation traditions, karma belief, reincarnation concepts. Shamanic elements. Belief in nature spirits. Healing rituals, magic practices. How have these beliefs been preserved? Thanks to geographical isolation, in mountainous regions, external religious influences remained weak. Tajik people accepted Islam but didn't completely abandon their old beliefs. They created new synthesis by blending both. The best example of this synthesis, Nowruz. Nowruz is officially considered an Islamic holiday, but its roots are in Zoroastrian tradition. Nowruz rituals, fire lighting, Zoroastrian tradition. Purification with water, Buddhist influence. Mountain climbing, shamanic element. Prayer, Islamic addition. How was this blending possible? Because Tajik Islam is very tolerant. Sufi tradition is strong. Sufism emphasizes mystical experience, not dogmatic rules. Tajik Sufism made room for old beliefs. As a result, very rich religious synthesis emerged. Most striking aspect of this synthesis, female shamans. There are no female religious officials in Islam, but in Tajikistan there are female shamans, PIR-ISLAMIC. What do PIR-ISLAMICs do? They heal diseases, they break spells, they prophesy the future, they communicate with spirits of the dead. These women are both Muslim and shaman. They don't see these as contradictory, because according to them, true religion isn't in dogma but in experience. There are many ways to connect with Allah. How does modern Tajikistan view these beliefs? Official attitude, tolerance. The state doesn't interfere with these traditions because the majority of people support these beliefs. But there's hidden concern, especially about the spread of radical Islam. Wahhabi influence has increased in recent years. Wahhabis consider old traditions as bid'ah, innovation. They want them banned. This situation creates tension in society. Conflict is beginning between traditional Tajik Islam and radical Islam. What will the outcome be? Nobody knows, but this struggle will determine Tajikistan's future. The syncretic nature of Tajik spirituality has created unique pilgrimage practices that combine Islamic, Zoroastrian, and shamanic elements. Sacred sites often feature Islamic shrines built on ancient fire temples where pilgrims perform rituals that would be unrecognizable to Orthodox Muslims. These sacred places maintain their own calendars of observance that don't align with standard Islamic holidays. Instead, they follow astronomical events and seasonal cycles that connect to pre-Islamic agricultural and pastoral traditions. Female shamans operate within a complex social structure that allows them to maintain authority in religious matters while publicly conforming to Islamic gender norms. They often work through networks of women that operate parallel to but separate from male-dominated religious hierarchies. The healing practices combine herbal medicine passed down from ancient times with Islamic prayers and shamanic rituals. Patients often receive treatment that addresses physical symptoms through plants, spiritual imbalances through Islamic prayers, and ancestral influences through shamanic ceremonies. The biggest threat Tajikistan faces: climate change. The country's water resources are completely dependent on glaciers. Glaciers in the PAMIR mountains are the country's lifeline, but these glaciers are rapidly melting. In the last 30 years, 30% of Tajikistan's glaciers have disappeared. If this rate continues, half of the glaciers won't remain by 2050. What does this mean? Water crisis. 95% of Tajikistan lives on agriculture. Agriculture depends on water. Without water, the country's economy collapses. But the problem isn't just economic, it's social. Water scarcity creates social conflict. Inter-village water wars have begun. There are water-sharing problems within families. Biggest threat: migration. People living in areas without water are forced to migrate. But where will they go? Tajikistan is already overpopulated. There's no room for new migrants. Result: internal refugee crisis. Currently, 200,000 people have been displaced due to climate change. This number increases every year. How is Tajikistan responding to this crisis? Water conservation projects have been launched. Drip irrigation systems are being installed. Drought-resistant plant varieties are being developed. But this isn't enough, because the problem isn't just technical, it's cultural. Tajik water culture is 1,000 years old. Lifestyle based on water abundance has developed. Changing this lifestyle is very difficult. For example, traditional Tajik houses have pools. These pools are status symbols, but they consume a lot of water. Closing pools is suggested for water conservation, but people see this as loss of prestige. Another example, traditional farming system. Tajik agriculture is water-intensive. Water-demanding crops like rice, wheat, cotton are grown. Transition to drought-resistant crops is suggested, but farmers don't accept. Because traditional crops are part of culture, this resistance is understandable, but it's not sustainable. Climate change won't wait. Either Tajikistan will adapt its culture or culture will disappear. The water crisis has revealed the interconnectedness of Tajik society in unexpected ways. Traditional water-sharing agreements between villages, some dating back centuries, are being revived and adapted to new scarcity conditions. Ancient water management techniques, including underground channels and seasonal storage systems, are being studied and modernized. These traditional methods often prove more sustainable and effective than imported modern irrigation technology. Climate change is also affecting the timing of traditional festivals and agricultural practices. The calendar systems developed over centuries no longer align with changing weather patterns, forcing communities to adapt rituals and practices that have remained unchanged for generations. The glacier retreat has exposed archaeological sites previously buried under ice, revealing evidence of past climate changes and how previous civilizations adapted to environmental shifts. These discoveries provide both historical context and practical lessons for current adaptation efforts. Tajikistan is at a critical crossroads today. On one side, there's 1,000-year culture and tradition. On the other side, there are the requirements of the modern world. Is it possible to combine both? Difficult, but not impossible. There are success examples: Bhutan model, controlled modernization while preserving traditional culture. Switzerland model, turning geographical isolation into advantage by creating special identity. Japan model, blending traditional values with modern technology. Which model will Tajikistan choose? Currently, there are 3 scenarios. Scenario 1, complete isolation, completely cutting relations with outside world. North Korea model, advantage, culture is completely preserved. Disadvantage, economic collapse, social tension. Scenario 2, complete modernization, adaptation to Western model, abandoning traditions. Advantage, economic development, technological progress. Disadvantage, loss of cultural identity. Scenario 3, hybrid model, blending tradition with modernity. Selective adaptation. Advantage, both culture is preserved and development is achieved. Disadvantage, very difficult to implement, requires balance. Tajikistan is currently trying the 3rd scenario. What will the outcome be? The answer to this question is important not just for Tajikistan but for the entire world, because Tajikistan's experience is a test of whether traditional cultures can survive in the modern world. If Tajikistan succeeds, it becomes hope for other traditional societies. If it fails, it becomes proof that globalization destroys cultural diversity. The outcome of this struggle affects not just Tajik people but all humanity. The hybrid approach Tajikistan is attempting involves creating what scholars call selective modernity, adopting technologies and practices that enhance traditional life while rejecting those that threaten cultural continuity. This might involve embracing renewable energy technologies that strengthen village independence while rejecting social media platforms that could undermine traditional authority structures. It means accepting modern medical techniques while maintaining traditional healing practices alongside them. Educational systems are being designed to prepare young people for global opportunities while ensuring they remain connected to their cultural roots. This includes programs that teach both computer programming and traditional crafts, both international languages and ancient poetry. The success or failure of Tajikistan's experiment will likely influence how other isolated cultures approach the challenge of modernity. Countries from Bhutan to parts of rural India are watching to see if it's possible to modernize without losing cultural identity. Tajikistan asks us very important questions. Is traditional life possible in the modern world? Can cultural diversity be preserved? Can human communities make their own choices? The answers we give to these questions will determine the shape of the future. Tajikistan's story isn't finished yet. Our choices will determine its ending. Because globalization isn't inevitable, humanity can choose its own destiny. Tajikistan is conducting a bold experiment in this regard. We can learn from them, or at least we can try to understand them. Write to us in the comments. Which feature of Tajikistan surprised you most? What can be done to preserve traditional life? And remember, there are still different lifestyles like Tajikistan in our world. Discovering, understanding, and protecting them is all our responsibility. Until our next adventure.